So there was one crazy.
Well, now I'm using a debate one and I can't log in.
No, he's actually doing okay.
He's enjoying it.
He's enjoying the time that he has. He started painting the house. I think that'll take a year.
But in a different color.
Yeah, we put a new garage door, a new storm door on, and we ordered, the beige tan, whatever, that was the color of the trim of the house. The trim of the house is probably down that even more ago. It's not the same thing.
Right.
So he's repainting the trim, and then I think he wants to repaint the whole house. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But no, he's actually enjoying his time, he's been extremely helpful. Just, I do all sorts of projects in the summer, because that's what we do. So he's been extremely helpful with all the projects that I always have on my list.
Good.
So, and I told him, I said, you got one more week with me, and I'm out. So,
Make your computer easier. Narrator. Hear text on screen aloud.
This is what it is.
So you got your new computer too?
Well, no, this is a debate
Wait.
laptop.
Hover.
I'm in love with mine.
Rest.
We're all about it.
I love it, make sure it's working.
Yeah.
I might be lying.
So Lucinda, there is a PD session on the PD website. I'm using Splashtop.
Okay, and I wrote it down. So you said, I wrote it down. Yeah, that's my focus next week, is to start going through all these tutorials. Then when we're actually meeting, I can ask questions if I have, or find the experts in the room.
My login for my students is TWVPA and 4N6. But that's what I had my guy set it up for. And actually, at this point, I think if you were to log into one, it would tell you to reset the password.
Yes, see, that's what I'm running into with this.
Are you
because
using a debate laptop right now?
I had picked, well, and I had picked it up back in March or May, I was doing 2 times since we built it, and that this might be helpful for teaching, having a second monitor. But it says the password's expired and that
Maybe.
we.
You might need to talk to your building about that. 'Cause he's the one that set mine up. I told him what I wanted the passwords for everything to be. And now I think that it might be to a point where if I log into any single one of them, it will ask me if I want to change the password. And I wouldn't be changing the password for all of them. I'd be changing the password for that one.
Right, and that's what I'm running into, but it's saying, and this is what he had set it up for student versus teacher. One is singular, one is plural, but now it says that it's incorrect. So I was like, oh.
I don't know.
So that's-
I haven't had that problem, and I don't have the same password this year. But that's what I would do is
Talk to Eric, yeah.
whoever your Mitchell is, talk to that guy.
Eric is my Mitchell. Thanks, just checking in.
Yeah.
That was a universal one.
That's as close to that experience as I've found as having to change the password back to the password that it was before.
Right.
Yes, in the freezer.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Because it is not cold at all.
Is Gary gonna make it today?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I forgot to sort my classes today to do.
Yeah, you're meeting the vice now. Or downtown.
Yeah, I was worried about Gary. I was kind of wondering about him this morning.
Whether or not he's gonna make it, you mean?
Yeah, you know. Gotta walk the dog. Somebody's gotta worry about it. It just will be me.
I was, on a meeting yesterday with one of our former students in high school.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to him, this program is computer, and he goes,
I do.
Yes, that's what I was like. Maybe.
What did he say? I actually forgot I said that.
Morning, morning.
Morning, Gary. I was worried about you.
Uh-oh, I made it.
Good. Well, I was worried about you. Figured somebody gotta worry about you. Will be me. Now look at that snazzy tie. I didn't even notice that until just now. Man, that is sporting.
Actually, I think this is the tie I wore to my son's wedding a year ago.
Is that right? Man, you spared no expense for that one.
You're right, I didn't.
Yeah.
It was fairly ridiculous.
My ties are old enough, they're still polyester. Yours is a silk tie there, Gary. That's
I
nice.
wonder if before we even get started. if I can
No,
decide-
polyester blend, buddy.
Still, pavilions, when it comes to tell or any country. So I think I'm going to talk to this.
Now?
Yeah. You can do that now if you want.
Good morning.
I took one week off.
I hit, oh shoot, I'll just hit enter, and then it changed it, and now I'm on. I guess when in doubt, just enter. Crazy. We just don't know.
It's not bad in here today.
It's not too bad. Well, I got in here early and kept the air on.
Got fired up.
Yeah, I kept it fired up. It wasn't for the heat, it's for the cold.
The temperature of the room is up for debate.
What's that now?
I said the temperature of the room is still up for debate.
Is that right?
Yes.
It's comfortable now, it's not to get cold.
That's good. Well, I moved down to the end so I could sit underneath the vent.
That's why I'm here.
Enjoy it.
You like the cold as well?
Yes,
Good for
really
you.
cold.
You and I are the only ones in the room that, down this way, they're all complaining because it's too cold. So, like, nope. Gotta have it cold.
Just the other day, I was like, I wonder when the first freeze is due.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Now you're a little extreme for me. I'm not looking forward to the first freeze. But I don't mind the cold.
I am on a variety of levels, mosquitoes, allergies, body temperature, yeah.
Wow.
The mosquitoes have been ferocious this year.
So, you know, it's funny because my family sprays down with bug spray and they still get bitten, and I don't typically spray down at all, and I don't come back home with, you know, a whole heck of a lot as far as that kind of thing, but.
You're just
But
not
right,
sweet
I haven't
enough.
hit it,
That's what my
I
father
didn't-
just said, the mosquito.
Maybe it's because, what is that, it's not sweet, and maybe I'm sour,
Yep.
or I
It
don't,
actually is a pH.
is it?
Okay, I don't know.
It's some,
I was bitten by, I had 50 sugar bites the other day.
Ugh.
Those are the worst. Oh, they're rolling around in the grass.
Yeah, that will do it.
Yeah, I spent the weekend doing yard chores and
Spray.
I did not. I was dumb and didn't spray. I wasn't thinking I was gonna be out very long and then I got started and I couldn't stop. One thing to the next.
Oh, yeah.
what's your thing say? Very nice at Columbus,
Next day I was.
Yeah, man.
there's nobody here, but there you go. What's nice at Columbus, is that like the shrine? What is it?
Yeah, it's a fraternity, it's for Catholic.
Okay.
It would be similar, I mean, it's an organization.
For if you go on that's cool. So you do like community service.
Yeah, you've probably seen that in the fall, we do the Tootsie Roll drive, seeing people handing out Tootsie Rolls, we do that, all that goes to the park.
Nice.
Uh,
But you selling this too?
no, that's the shrine, they sell that, yeah, they're the ending guys, we're the Tootsie Roll
I
guys.
think I better bring attention to you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you pull that apparatus going around the back of your neck there.
Yeah, Kurtzy did, my assistant made me that little thing.
That
It works better because all these masks do this to my ears.
nice.
So,
Maybe it might help too with your being down a little lower, it doesn't fog up your glasses.
yeah, it's not bad, it's,
Safer.
I'll be ready for post mask wearing.
Yes,
Won't we all?
if we ever get to that.
We will.
Somebody will probably pass a rule that I gotta wear one permanently. Judy probably vote for that, permanent mask, soundproof permanent mask.
Man, that's harsh.
She's a tough woman, Richard. I'm married to a tough woman. She's hard. Whatever shit, you know, I call it. It really was stupid. I think she was pretty. And,
Oh, and that's, I tried. They have other ones that we've done that way. I've been with the kids up there. Rocket to the head. I try to sit in on the depositions and those things, just, you know, to try to have a somewhat known face.
I appreciate it, I really do. Morning, Billy.
Richard, while we were gone, did you have any time to do some bonding with Gary?
Yes, I did.
That is clear.
Yep, I sure did. We talked about ties and masks and how our glasses fog up on a continuous basis. And that Gary was treating everyone to lunch.
Yeah, well, now, Richard, he didn't go that far.
Good thing you came fast and easy though.
That's right.
You need one?
Yeah, plenty.
I know.
Richard, understand, there's an old boss proverb that says, a man without friends dies a lonely death.
That's a good one.
That's what you live by, isn't it?
Yep. I don't know about friends, Gary, but I definitely talk a lot. I don't know if talking a lot equates to having lots of friends or not, but I don't really know a stranger.
I think it probably does.
Okay, before we, I don't know if this is gonna work or not, before we get started this morning, hold
Yeah, talk
They
about
always when I get on it, so, I don't know. I just wanted to, follow up on part of what we, talked about last week when we were together. The special education addendum. I'm not sure that we thanked you appropriately for that. We asked for 16 and you gave us 15, and we've been asking for SPED for years. And at no time in the history of education, I think, was it more important to recognize the work that those teachers do. I personally have spent a great deal of time over the last few days with our special education teachers, going through the amendment process for all of their students that we provide services for. And I just a shout out to the special education teachers. They have worked hard. They have reached out to our parents. They have clarified questions, concerns. Most of the meetings were, the amendment piece was quickly dispatched with, and then the parents just had questions and concerns. So I wanted to make sure that we made a public record of the fact that special education teachers have done a phenomenal job. And probably have prepared for this, I guess, their whole career. But thank you for the additional addendum for those teachers at a time when they are really putting in some serious hours to meet the needs of our students.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Lucinda. I can tell you that it means an awful lot to hear coming from your side of the table, that expression of appreciation for us recognizing and then rewarding that work and that commitment by addressing the adjustment of the addendum. As you mentioned, that is something that has been placed in front of us a number of consecutive years prior to this round of negotiations. We were not able to do anything previously. We did see the importance of trying to figure out a way to do something this year. And, we did so right on the heels of what I thought was a very informative financial presentation by Gary Minke. And I wanted to kind of start today with a piggyback on Gary's information. Hopefully, the packet that Gary shared with everyone last Friday is one that is still in everyone's possession. And hopefully, as you met as a team since last Friday, you've had a chance to even delve a little deeper into this financial information. Because, you know, we really didn't take the time to talk about what I would consider some key takeaways from the information, and if, for lack of a better term, I'm gonna say some financial tea leaves for us to give some very strong consideration to, not only for this round of negotiations, but also going forward. If we look at page 1, or page 2 rather, of Gary's presentation, I think he shared with you, this was what we refer to as Code 99. It is a document that has been posted in the Capitol Journal. It's the one that is also filed with the county after it's been approved, so that we basically establish our budget for the upcoming fiscal year that is filed with Shawnee County. And just a couple of things from the Code 99 on page 2 that I think is important to note is that the proposed budget results in no tax increase for our district constituents. And I think that's very important when you consider the times in which we're living and some of the difficulty that has been created by the pandemic, the economic downturn that has resulted from that pandemic. And if you look on page 11 of Gary's packet, you get a chance to see what the 3-year history has been of the district's budget. And then we had a slight decrease this year. There was a slight decrease in fiscal year 20 from fiscal year 19. So it has been very important for us to maintain consistency as far as being mindful of our taxpayers and not creating any sort of financial burden for them through increased tax burden as a result of the mill levy associated with USD 501. So, you know, we are happy to be in that position, and that's something that we end up doing and accomplishing together and collectively. So I think that's something that both parties, as we negotiate, should really take some pride in what we've been able to accomplish for our constituents. If we go to page 4 of this document, this is where we really get into information that we should definitely be mindful of, not only for this negotiations, but hopefully it's something that as an organization that you refer to and keep in the forefront of conversation and in the forefront when it comes to decision making, when it comes to policy and philosophy as far as the way you do business this year. Because if you look at the fiscal year 21 budget, you see that the general fund budget is $236,591 less than the previous year's budget. So when you compare this budget to last year, the budget has decreased. And as I said, $236,000+. That's the general fund budget. If you take a look at the LOB fund budget, if you compare fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 20, that budget is decreasing $572,561. So in both cases, the budget is going down rather than going up. One of the things that Mr. Minke had shared is when, the budget is set so that you don't exceed the actual budget when it comes to expenses and when it comes to the spending for that fiscal year. But once we have our audit, the state establishes what is referred to as the legal max. And that is the dollars that we actually end up getting from the state. And even though our budget is a couple $100,000 lower than the prior year budget, Mr. Minke gave an estimated number that legal max, and you see out to the right on page 4, the 794,251 figure. That is what he estimates that our legal max will come in at. So down even further than what our budget is established at. All of those downturns, all of those decreases are in light of the fact that when you look at our base state aid per pupil, it is increasing this year to $45.69 from the prior year of $44.36. So at a time when the base state aid is going up, and we're very thankful for that, after dealing with a few years of declining funding from the state, the block grant, where we were locked in at $38.52 as a base state aid per pupil, to be going up in funding from the state is certainly a welcome sight on the part of our district. But that increase in funding, as Mr. Minke referred to, has been offset by a very rapid decline in student enrollment. So that FTE is offsetting the increase in base state aid that we are getting. If you look at page 5, where that chart goes all the way back to the year 16-17, you see a steady stair-stepping down as far as FTE is concerned. We had an FTE enrollment back in fiscal year 17 of 13,352. And we're looking at an FTE enrollment for this year of 12,390.7. If you subtract those two numbers, it shows a difference over that period of time of 961.3 fewer students this year in comparison to what we had in the fiscal year 17. 961.3. And what really highlights what financial impact that has to our budget and to this district. If the enrollment just stayed the same, if it just stayed the same, then you multiply that number times the 4569. And what it tells us is that we would have $4,392,180 more in our budget to work with. More dollars in our budget for us to discuss at this table. But we don't have. You know, when you look at the increase in the base state aid per pupil, as I mentioned, it's increased from 4436 to 4569. If we go back to page 6 of this packet, at the very top above 4569, what percent do you see there? 3%. Now that captures the amount of the increase from the prior year in base state aid per pupil. It increased 3%. If we had increased our budget by 3%, we would have $3,126,975 more dollars in that budget. Or we would be looking at a budget of a general fund budget of $107,359,486. That's what we would be looking at. That's what we might be able to expect to see on the Code 99 as far as the budget for fiscal year 21, instead of a number that we're looking at, which shows a decline. We should be mindful of that. Gary talked about the difference that weightings make, you know, particularly for a district like ours. Okay, at a high free and reduce rate number, high at risk. If you look at the weighted enrollment, if you just go back to fiscal year 18 and compare it to this fiscal year, that's a difference of 1,406.7. That's what we will be losing in weightings, all tied into a decline in enrollment. Also on page 6, just as it indicated that there would be a 3% increase in the base state aid per pupil for this fiscal year. If you go back to the fiscal year 18 that you see on the information as contained there on page 6, that was the first year after the block grant. The base state aid per pupil increased 4%. The next year, 3.82%. The next year, 6.51%. And as we've already stated, this year, 3%. But rather than getting the 3.82%, for instance, in fiscal year 19, what did that percent really end up being for us, Gary?
From what periods are?
Fiscal year 19.
19 from 18 was about 0.5%.
That is a far cry from the 3.82. Do you have any other years? Do you have fiscal year 20? Andy?
Yeah, fiscal year 20, we were up in general state aid, about 4%. The 4,436 from the 4165, that was a 6.51%. General state aid moving from 19 to 20 was up about 4. So we had a 0.5% from 18 to 19, about 4% from 19 to 20. And then from 20 to 21, we would expect another, actually a dip of about a little over a 0.5%. So if you look at that 3-year period, that's about an average of 1.3% increase in dollars.
1.3. That's a number you should be writing down, Richard. You locked it in.
1.3.
The reason I say that is because if you look back over that same period of time on what we have done when it comes to certified pay increases, fiscal year 18, we gave a 4.4% increase. Fiscal year 19, we gave a 7.80% increase. Fiscal year 20, we gave a 5.1% increase. The average over that 3-year period is 5.77%. That's the average in comparison to the average that Gary just shared of 1.3% that we've received in additional funding. So when you look at the fact that our budget is declining, revenue is certainly not increasing, and you look at what we have historically done, you have to ask yourself, when do you reach the point where the well is dry? That there's nothing to work with. When I talk about the financial tea leaves, what I'm insinuating is when you read the tea leaves tell us that anyone who makes or looks at making sound financial decisions for this district for this year and going forward, a sound financial decision would be to freeze things, and that's the best. Would be to freeze things where they are. The better decision would probably be to cut salaries. That is what the financial numbers tell us is the most prudent action on our part. If we're going to survive. We've already talked about what we expect could happen come mid-year with some of the problems that our state is having as far as revenue is concerned and how deep of a financial hole they're in from a budget standpoint. when you combine all of those things into one, what appears to be a perfect storm, it should be easy to understand why people that deal with these numbers every day, like Gary and I, why we are having plenty of sleepless nights. But even with that being said, we have shown a willingness to do whatever we possibly can on behalf of our certified staff, year in and year out, and I think that our actions have proven that, particularly in light of these numbers that you have reviewed and you've looked at. That's why, we're so happy to hear, coming from your team, Lucinda, the thank you. Because making that happen, not just for the sped teachers, but what we did with addendums, period, okay, it's no small task. So when we share with you what we are proposing as far as salaries are concerned for certified staff, please keep in mind that this proposal is coming at a time when, if anything, we should be proposing a freeze or a cut. That's what the financial tea leaves tell us that we should be doing. But we're going to figure out a way to do something other than that. And we hope that you are just as appreciative of what we are about to share as you were with what we did with addendums. Because in total, it involves a considerable sum of money that, as you can see, we don't really have. Any questions? Comments?
I don't have any questions at this point in time. Thank you for sharing that information, and I'm really glad we didn't have that conversation last Friday afternoon. So as you went through the details, my brain needed to be as sharp as possible. So thank you for illuminating some of the information that was in the report that Gary gave with us, reiterating once again the importance of some of those numbers. But I think the floor is yours, LR. So I'm gonna let you go.
I will pass our proposal to you, Lucinda. I realize that once you receive it, I'm sure that you would like to caucus with your team.
Absolutely.
And
we will caucus at this time. 30 minutes unless I need to extend. So we'll start back.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
That's so much good stuff. It's due the first. That's a Monday, so. Yeah, I'm gonna send you, yeah, I'll send you, I'll send you a, Google, Sheets with last year's numbers. Will that help? Okay.
Every year this is like that. It really, there's the time is that, like, always
I've never had them come down to me and say, hey, never, I know.
all the audits.
Because there's no state aid for some reason. Other than reporting purposes.
I mean, it's usually. Videos that they want to do. So I think that just, money, except for the days and time.
I understand that.
Kids aren't suitable for teachers, everything else is levels at their discretion to do or not do.
Somewhere else.
Okay. And I, for the very reason that we'll be just talking about that. I have never had any of those auditors come back down and say, hey, what the heck?
I don't know if that makes it better. I think that honestly, there's probably a sweet spot. If you know that in certain, like in Western, like,
No.
really? A small amount relaxes them just a little bit.
It may be shaky.
Well, not too much, but a little bit will make you less shaky. It makes you a little bit more relaxed.
So are you in part?
I am
I'm
not,
I'm about to be.
Yeah, medicinal purposes.
but I have played darts before, and I believe that that theory holds water.
And more.
Exactly.
Well, you know, if they say
All right, we're live.
Yes.
Yeah, they want to say that for sure.
Yes.
Okay, before we talk specifically about the financial proposal, I want to thank you again for going through the financial report this morning, LR. Of course, Gary's description of it last week. I don't think anybody in this room is aware of this, but my first career was in banking. So explaining and going through the budget and explaining the pieces of the budget makes sense. I get what you're talking about. I just decided to work with children instead of money. I have not regretted that decision. So I wanted to thank you for that. We did discuss in caucus the proposal that has been put on the table. And as I'm sure you guys are aware, we also have been tracking partner districts, sister districts, other places in the state. And all school districts are dealing with the same kind of financial difficulties that Topeka Public Schools is. That being said, we do appreciate the offer of $1,000 on the base and the $500 step that you have indicated in your proposal. That again, I believe, keeps us as the highest paid starter teacher salary. Is that correct? In the county, I believe?
Yeah, I really don't know what the other districts are doing or have done so far this year. We were the highest by a pretty good margin. I just don't know whether or not that's still true.
And I think for a large part, it is still accurate, though I do know that there are some districts who have yet to settle where we're at. But I would like to thank you very much for, again, explaining where we're at, how we got here. And as a team, we have agreed to accept the $1,000 on the base proposal that you guys have put on the table. And we appreciate the time that you put into trying to at least extend a recognition of the efforts of the Topeka Public Schools for what we do for our kids. And I will stress our kids at the end of the day. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I will defend our children. And by defending our children, I defend our staff. I would also mention that as we go into the school year, both sides of the table need to realize that we're not this far apart, that we will need the support of admin, just as teachers will need the support of each other to get through whatever will play out for us as this year unfolds.
Well, thank you for those comments, Lucinda, and I'll say, on behalf of our team, we certainly appreciate the response and the deliberation that took place by you and the rest of your team this morning. And we're very happy and satisfied with your decision to accept this financial offer. And I think that pretty much concludes our business, doesn't it?
I believe it's all done with the paperwork. Yes. That's, that concludes everything that was on our list and everything that was on your list. So, yes.
With the calendar, information for the article on calendar.
Right. And so I have gone through,
The city calendar?
the housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Yeah, the housekeeping piece that I know Debbie has worked on. So we're prepared to tentatively agree to all the pieces that we have agreed to on the table. So as I said, we're just at the point where we need just the paperwork now.
We're prepared to do the same. I do have a notebook that should have captured everything.
Okay.
At the very back is what Deb has put together as far as the housekeeping items.
Okay.
So you might review that, and if everything is in order, then you can sign, I'll sign.
Okay.
And I have a second notebook that is a replica of that.
Okay.
We can sign too.
Of course, we'll take the time, if you don't mind, for our team to go through this. I think we are approaching a break and we'll decide on time to come back. I went through this morning and did all of this electronically on my computer so that I was prepared for the day. But this is a much more professional presentation, so I appreciate that. I think we would like to break to go over the documents that you've shared with me. 10 minutes?
I can't imagine.
Let me make, I want you to give everything a good review, so it takes longer than that, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm gonna have our most detailed and thorough team member take a look at ours and make sure that it's everything.
Okay. Well, it's 10:47 now. How about if we meet at 11:30? To just finalize it all, do the final signatures and be done? Does that sound reasonable? And we may get done a little bit earlier, but
Okay.
that'll be outside.
We could say noon and Gary could get his lunch.
We could say, we're not going to say that. We're not going to say
I'm
that.
trying to save any excuses today, so they don't know.
No, I thought Gary was
Oh,
buying.
Gary was final.
Yeah, Gary was buying.
All right, we're gonna review this and we'll
We
be
eat
back.
lunch today.
Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you.
We have a sidebar for just a second.
Yes.
You have this too?
This is what one is.
So the first document you gave us. Okay. 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 All right. You wanna reconvene in Denver?
Very nice, I like that, nice tabs, very nice.
Assistant.
Oh, is that what that is?
Oh, there you go, there you go, yeah. I never tried to really old.
You going in there?
Yeah, you can do it now because it's all on clearance. Yes, yes, but that's, thank you.
You feel like a yo-yo someday, but
I'm just usually in a fancy trick.
Okay, then. Yeah, I better run to the restroom real quick.
Money matters, right?
I mean, it might be nice if it did, but it sure does.
The funny thing is, I logged on, and I also tried logging on with the student one, and it said it was incorrect, and I just hit enter, and then it opened up. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just be a student.
Oh, I always log in as a student on those things.
There's a teacher one, there's an admin one, and there's a student one.
Yeah. I just log in as a student.
I might have,
With the power users on that computer, I think I can do all the same things.
yeah, it's hard to put my hands and use the facilities.
The facilities, huh?
Facilities.
Okay.
Okay.
I actually propped this door open this morning because it wasn't open, and I thought, we don't need to all be putting our hands on it to open the door. So I did that.
What do you think, was it about another hour?
We will probably wrap up by 11:45.
Okay.
Latest, I would think. I think the air conditioner was off in here again.
It was humid there for a while.
Did you get all dressed up today, Richard, because it was only gonna be a half a day?
That's all right. Yeah, I dressed up today because it's our last day. What better, to celebrate?
Right? Other than silk top.
Hello.
Oh, I just washed my hands, but thank you.
I just did that. I just did.
Oh, you did.
Thank you.
I thought your phone was on.
He's
That's
such a
fair,
kid.
I was looking at it.
The dogs or cats or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
This is a good excuse if you happen to not be paying.
All across the Bibles. Couple of things that I noticed. This one, the base of course changes to 44.5, and I just put a note on here that these do not reflect the change of that. So that,
Oh.
so that changes, and that's accurate. But in other words, the 12% of 44.5 is no longer 52.20. So I put that, since this was in red, I just did, that's 26% of the 44.5 base, since we had that in red. So that's why I put that base. So 11,310 is 26% of the current base, and 11,570 is 26% of the new base. But since this was in red, I went ahead and did that. Okay? That's two of them. And then the last one, this is just the housekeeping stuff, which Carly usually did in red, I was not going, so that I can finish it myself. Which usually do a little bit. That's all. Okay, make sense?
Yep.
All right. Okay. And we did look at the insurance, document that you gave us, and we did 2,000. So I appreciate you guys catching that. We certainly did. Thank you. Yeah. So much to keep track of. All right. I think we're at closure.
Just, I'll say just a couple of words, and that is, we certainly appreciate the cooperative spirit in which these negotiations took place this year. It was a pleasure working with you, Lucinda, and the rest of your team. And I'm glad that we're able to put this behind us so that we can focus on some of the challenges ahead for both the district and the teachers relative to this pandemic that we're faced with as we try to figure out what all of us are here for, and that is to provide a quality education to our kids and do so safely with everything that we're faced with as far as this crisis is concerned. So thank you, and we'll move ahead, and as is always the case, before we know it, we'll be back again in a year, setting down, but for right now, we'll just celebrate and be happy with what we've accomplished this year. So thank you for everything.
And I want to thank your team as well. I do appreciate the way these proceedings went, given the challenges that we've been trying to find times that we can be together. And just a reminder, we of course have a tentative agreement. I believe we have an agreement that will be ratified by the bargaining unit. But of course, that is our next step. So hopefully we'll have closure to this before too much longer. But I do believe we've got a document that we can be successful. So thank you for your cooperation on that, on the part of your entire team, when we were asking questions and needing clarification. We got what we needed, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck for all of us.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Gary, we'll see you again next year.
Yeah.
Kind of a yearly thing, I don't really see it too much
You
otherwise.
know, we should just bust our
Just rest it, Gary, thanks. Well, you may have to go through
Well, I
passwords.
think my next board meeting.
You can come on down. We got
We
it
should just
down.
pop our head in and learn to go.
As long as you got a mask on right now, you'll be just fine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yep. The chances are you seeing me in my office might be, I'm usually somewhere else.
I know.
That's the problem.
Walking the dog.
No,
Oh,
negotiation,
oh. Those kinds.
meetings. Like my wife, I gotta leave a picture on the counter sometimes so she can remember what I look like.
Make sure it's your good side.
I'll have.
Then you just promise that you should have.
Hey, guys, take care. Good luck.
She has, fractured her shoulder.
You missed that part?
Oh, I knew she had gotten an injury.
Yeah.
Here last week, but I didn't know what.
She's she's gonna have an operation that's part of the pain. Pain in the shoulder. She fell, she put her arm out.
It was my last whole
And so all this just came up into the shoulder. And that's how she tracked her shoulder. It's by twisting all of this. How
I'm gonna go work on my
Like fall.
Okay, do we need to talk about?
Yeah.
Yes, we have it today.
Well, making sure that we.
It sounds like one of us should have put this equipment in our camera.
Seeking all the extra sympathy from everybody, but she doesn't seem to, so. Thanks for asking about it. Yeah, thanks for asking about it, whether or not you have.
Have a good rest of the week. Thank you.
Yeah. Tonight's board meeting will be a long one. I imagine.
Oh, yeah, they have been for a long time.
Yes. Are we, I don't think Richard turned this off yet. do we?
Probably.
You gonna say something, Michelle?
I'm just hitting end. Is that
Does
okay?
this conclude